everyone, and welcome back to Delmere. It's been a really long hiatus. It's been months, if I have to count. About 4 months at least. But it's back. Haven't had too much time to play since I started college. But I'm finding my footing and I'm all set to get back into the game. This has actually been a long time coming. All these clips that you see here were filmed maybe 6 weeks before I'm recording this. So yeah, it's been a while. I've definitely forgotten a bit of what I've done. But yeah, this episode is a lot like the past episodes. We've just been expanding the city, building fairly large districts in the city. And this one in particular is slightly further down the water from downtown, closer to the water from the Falls Hill district that we worked on last time. This one is meant to be more of an older district of the city. It's where a lot of the older city was as it expanded, and as much of the city center sort of modernized. This area kind of got left in the dust. A lot of the buildings stayed as older buildings and things like that, and you'll see a lot more of that come about when I'm actually placing down buildings. Here I am trying to get a grid layout in place, try and not follow like a really rigid grid layout, but like some semblance of one, if you know what I mean. Definitely some interesting roads that I'm trying to put in here. The main thing is, as you get closer to the waterfront, it's a lot closer to a grid. It's all the roads follow the sort of coastline, which is something I did to sort of closer emulate Budapest, which the waterfront on this area, on this side, is mainly going to be based off of. That's why the roads around there are also a lot narrower than usual. And because this area of the city is actually pretty hilly, like from the waterfront it's actually really steep going back, I decided to take a little bit of inspiration from Seattle, which has a similar sort of thing around where the Alaskan Railway Viaduct used to be. It's not that steep, I believe, but it's steep enough, or at least close enough to what we've got going here in Delmere. As you can see, I have started placing down some of the buildings. I've basically just been using, I believe, the Brooklyn set by Fine Build, plus a few other buildings. And yeah, these work really well as like, I guess wall-to-wall is the closest term I can think of. But yeah, as you can see, I can basically just place buildings and they all fit in. I don't need to do too much like fine-tuning in the placement, which is nice, especially for sort of the size of the district, I guess. And now in building all this, I sort of was like thinking about like the backstory of this area. Like, as you've seen, like some of the other districts in the city have modernized. The Falls Hill district that we worked on last time is a lot more modern. It's got those Vancouver vibes. We've got the main downtown area, which also has like the central business district and a lot of, again, Vancouver style condo apartments and things like that. So I was sort of giving some thought about how or like why this area sort of retained this sort of older style of buildings. And elaborate storyline commences here. The story I'm coming up with is along the waterfront that you see over there. It's a fairly wide area. There's like one road that like follows the waterfront pretty much at the waterfront itself, and then there's sort of service lane that's further in. And the story is, one of those used to be a viaduct, like the Alaskan Way in Seattle that I mentioned maybe 2 minutes ago. Yeah. And that used to be there, and near where we have the main boulevard running through the city, that's where the viaduct sort of curved in and started cutting through the city itself, as you know, a lot of American cities did do. Of course, this city isn't American per se, but you know, I'm taking inspiration from it. So yeah, there used to be a highway running through it, and in a later bit of the video you'll probably see this sort of large empty sort of strip of land running next to the main boulevard around there, which is where I'm saying that highway used to run. And you know, eventually they tore it down, like the good urban planners we are, and yeah, they're going to replace that with the park, which is going to come in the next episode. You know, a little tease if I ever get around to building it. But yeah, so they tore that down, but by that point this part of the city had sort of been isolated from the sort of modernization, I guess, or like a lot of the upzoning. I don't think that's the right word, but you know, a lot of the more modern buildings didn't come into this area. Of course, there are some, you know, since that highway was torn down, you know, some expansion of the surrounding districts has occurred into this one. As you can see, you know, I've got some of these condos around here, slightly closer to the Falls Hill area. But you know, the further you get from the newer districts, the sort of older the buildings start to get, I guess. Yeah, so over here, this area, starting to get a fair few condos, or just like tall residential towers, I guess. Because this is pretty much on the border with Falls Hill District. You could sort of see it out of the corner there. So yeah. Yeah, now a lot of what I'm doing is just placing down buildings. You know, I've been doing this for the last 2 or 3 episodes now, I think. So yeah, I have been thinking about sort of next steps as I sort of come to a close of finishing the main sort of downtown area of the city. You know, what are the next steps? What do I want to do next? And I've got a few ideas. This is where I sort of want feedback from you, the viewer. Not that I have too many, but anyways. Yeah, so one thing I've been thinking of is sort of filling in all the empty gaps in the city with parks. You know, just have an episode dedicated to parks and detailing everything. You know, it's not exactly my forte, but you know, I think if I dedicate an entire episode to it, it should be pretty fun. The other thing I've been thinking about is working on a particular land reclamation project, let me say. Just something that'll help bridge Delmere over to the other side of the bay. So, you know, that'll be some incentive to expand the city over and get it going there. By the way, that one sort of sunken highway that you've probably been seeing a few times throughout the episode, I ended up building that off camera. I actually had footage for it, but I don't exactly know what went wrong. OBS weirded out. Yeah, this is actually like my 3rd time building this district because, well, I wasn't happy with it the first time, and the second time all the recordings bugged out, but I couldn't bring myself to like build that entire sunken highway again. So, you know, it just exists. We'll deal with it. Yeah, that is something that was sort of inspired by one of the tunnels between New York City and New Jersey, which I've been going through a lot more now that I live in the US. I've seen it quite a few times, and I decided to try something like it. it turns into a tunnel, and it's supposed to go across the bay. For the moment, I've just sort of like ended it halfway into the bay, because of course we don't have anything on the other side. But yeah, that is something really cool that I tried to do. Have the sunken highway, and it turns into a tunnel. And yeah, you know, you've got some roads going over it too. It connects into sort of an empty area in the Falls Hill district that I had left. The connection point's a bit weird, but I think I got it going pretty well. Now, as I sort of finish this area, I'm gonna move on to some of the areas closer to the downtown, and I'm gonna start trying to like transition this entire district from what's mainly a residential focused area, you know, something similar to like, I guess, Park Avenue in New York City, to something that's more commercial. That's what's going to come in the area behind these buildings I just placed. You know, I'm gonna have a bit of a commercial street, you know, a lot of shops. The one example that I can tell you off the top of my head is Hiatus in Budapest, which this sort of reminds me of, I guess. I don't remember this is exactly where it is in Budapest, but it's similar. So yeah, I'm sort of just filling in these gaps around here, and then I'm gonna move on to that sort of area. Here we go. So yeah, there is technically still residential around here. You know, these sort of apartment blocks. Now that I think about it, you know, it's been 6 weeks since I've done this. I don't remember much of it. But yeah, this area does seem a lot closer to the rest of the district, but there are a lot more shops that I've put in around here, and things like that. Honestly, since most of the buildings I have from the workshop are these sort of like mixed-use sort of buildings, where it's like you have an apartment building with some commercial underneath. You know, a lot of buildings are similar that way. I actually can't remember if these buildings that I just placed down have shops underneath. I can see that one definitely has one. That's a Panera Bread. Yeah. This one looks really nice. You know, as you come down the sort of incline, there's like a pretty uniform slope for the buildings as well. So yeah, you know, once again, filling in the gaps, not the easiest thing to do in city skylines, but when you do, it looks awesome. And now this is the final area we work on, I believe. This is pretty much at the city center. You know, you've got downtown there, you've got that empty area that I mentioned earlier, where in the lore of Delmere, you know, the old highway used to run through that area. And this is going to be like a commercial center for the city. You could see just a second ago, I placed down this mall, which is based on the atrium in Toronto, I believe. And then there's a bus terminal, and I forget what this building I just placed down is, but it's like a big office building. It's got the school underpass, actually overpass section that I wanted to put in. And now what I'm going to do is actually get this underground trams from the other district, from the waterfront district, to emerge around here, and it actually turns out pretty cool. Yeah, there's going to be like a tiny tram hub around here, which takes me a bit of a while to make. There was a fair bit of that I had to cut out because a lot of fiddling was involved over there. But yeah, this entire sort of area is like the commercial center. You know, you've got the mall, you've got that sort of big business center or something. I'm not sure. But you've also got like a transit hub, and this is all, you know, next to that museum that you see. So it's actually the Royal Ontario Museum, if you haven't seen the previous episodes. And yeah, I'm not sure how realistic this entire tram infrastructure is here. You know, maybe I put in too many connections, but it looks cool. So I'm giving myself a pass on that one. As always, you know, if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear them. You know, leave them down in the comments. I definitely have ideas for Delmere, but you know, some more ideas would be nice. And yeah, the only thing that bothered me is that, as you can see, like, there's like a few crosswalks and like a junction in a row where the tram lines cross over the street. Not sure how to deal with that in like for the traffic itself, how to get the traffic to flow well to there, but I think it should work. And yeah, there we have it, and I'll see you next time. Not sure what I'll do next episode, but yeah, leave it down in the comments what you'd like to see.